To learn about cells, we start with animal cells. And to draw an animal cell, we simply start with a circle. This circle is representing the plasma membrane or cell membrane. It's a semi-permeable barrier that keeps some things in the cell and allows some things to go out of the cell. The next thing that we're going to draw out is the nucleus. The nucleus is the most prominent organelle of the cell. I'm drawing it as a dotted line because the nucleus has nuclear pores. This allows certain things to leave the nucleus while other things have to stay within the nucleus. Now, in the nucleus, we are going to find DNA. DNA is a double helixed molecule which has your genetic information on it. That genetic information is in the sequence of A's, T's, C's, and G's. Those are the nitrogen spaces, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. That's going to tell your ribosome how to make the protein that your body wants to make. Next, we'll draw out the rough ER. Now, the reason why this is called rough endoplasmic reticulum is that it has ribosomes attached to its surface. Ribosomes are the tiniest organelle within the cell that have your body produce proteins. Now, some of the ribosomes are free-floating within the cell, but the majority of them are stuck to that rough ER. Next, we'll have our smooth ER. Smooth ER is called smooth because there are no ribosomes stuck to its surface. The smooth ER's job is to synthesize lipids. Next, we'll have the Golgi apparatus. Now, sometimes you hear this called the Golgi body. Sometimes you hear it called the Golgi complex. But the Golgi's job is to create vesicles or packages of things that can float around the cell or even be brought to the cell membrane to be released out of the cell. Now, while those vesicles look like little bubbles that package things, we also have other organelles within the cell that look like bubbles that have different jobs. These are called lysosomes. When we hear lysosomes, we should think of the word Lysol. Their job is to clean up the cell. They get rid of worn cell parts or pathogens that could damage the cell. We also have some smaller sort of bubbles called periosteums. Periosteum's job is to neutralize toxins, things that could change the pH of our cells, which could cause our cells to be damaged or die. We also have the powerhouse of the cell. This is the one that most students remember the most from elementary or middle school. It's called the powerhouse of the cell because its job is to produce energy. It is a double membraned organelle that has sort of this squiggly line in it, and it's called the mitochondria. Now, depending on what the energy needs are in the cell, there could be just a few mitochondria or there could be many mitochondria. Mitochondria's job is to produce energy, and that energy is in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. We also have in the cell what's called centrioles. Centrioles always occur in pair, and they usually have a membrane around them called centrosome. Centrioles are made of microtubules, so we draw little lines like this, and then a second one because they always occur in pair like this. Now, centrioles are really important for cellular division, things like mitosis, which we'll get into later. We also have within the cell what's called the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton is made of two things, microtubules and microfilaments. Microtubules look like little tiny tubes, and they kind of just float around the cell, sort of ping-ponging these little vesicles and things around the cell. They also give some structure to the cell, which is why they're part of the cytoskeleton. We also have microfilaments, which are like tiny long strings, and we usually see them circling the inside perimeter of the cell. They kind of keep the cell in this circular shape that we're used to seeing for animal cells. So we'll just draw it out like that. Now, what you can't see represented when I drew out the cell is the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the fluid that's within the cell called cytosol with all of the organelles that we just drew out suspended within it. So draw out this cell, make sure that you can label all of its parts and think about what those parts do.